In this video, we're going to talk about a number of boxes that you need to check as you're preparing for retail placement, and that is all forms of collateral material.
Collateral material is everything you use to support your sales effort, from your website to sales sheets to social media. This is part of your branding and should all be harmonious in design. It should all look like it goes together.
If you ignore some of this information, you are not going to get to your goal. Why? Because your competitors are doing all the things I'm talking about in this video. Each of these subjects that we're going to talk about is expansive, and we could do a video or more for each of them. Our focus, however, is how these topics relate to placing your product at retail. That is, how are you going to look in the eyes of a retail chain buyer, or more especially, a reality changer? If you don't believe perception is reality, then you've never sold a product in your life. How you look and how you tell your story matters. People love a good story, and so do retail chain buyers. I personally used to do about 16 trade shows a year, and as a result, I spent a lot of time on planes. I once sat next to an executive from one of the largest health and beauty companies in the world. We talked about all sorts of subjects, but then the conversation turned to national and regional marketing and marketing tactics. And what I'm talking about is the tricks of the trade. Most of my experience with national advertising had been in the as seen on TV industry, and that was mostly cable advertising. But this executive's experience was totally different than mine, and he popped off with the phrase, "Nothing is better than buyer billboards." I had never heard of such before, so I just asked casually, "What are buyer billboards?" He said, "Well, before we launch a product, we make sure to create lots of buzz. There are plenty of places to get awards, media endorsements, editorials in magazines, etc., etc." So he said, once we get the buzz going, then we target a specific chain of stores and try to figure out where the buyer lives. And shocked, I said, "What? Why do you need to know where the guy lives?" And he replied, "Because we have a firm that will tell us all of the buyer's routes to their office. And so in the weeks leading up to our meeting, we buy as many billboards along those routes as we can." And he said, all of those billboards, it reinforces our story, our awards and our endorsements and our media exposure. So by the time we get to the meeting, the buyer's seen the damn billboards 100 times. And then he said, if the buyer happens to go online and do a little research about the product, everywhere he looks, people are ranting and raving about it. Buyer billboards, baby. Nothing works better.
In this video and the next, we're going to talk about how you can use these same laser-targeted tactics in order to assist your product's success as well. The only economical and sensible advertising these days is highly targeted. We're going to talk about what you can do to improve your image, make you look much bigger than you are, and how to find ways to get your message out there to exactly the right people.
To reiterate what we've talked about in all the other videos up until this point, all of your branding should match. Your product packaging should match your website should match your business cards should match your sales sheets, etc., etc. No matter what collateral material we're discussing in these videos, always assume that my advice is it needs to match everything else and match your branding.
Your website should look like it was done by a professional and not by your brother-in-law. Hopefully I said enough about that in the packaging video and we don't need to go there again. Good, clean websites are relatively cheap. Make sure yours has been done professionally. How does someone feel when they use your website? Confused? Uninterested? Boring? Lost? Seriously, a lot of thought needs to go into creating the easiest, most streamlined user experience possible. Your most highly trafficked pages should be the easiest to access from the home page. Make navigation a breeze, not a scavenger hunt. More than 50% of all website traffic worldwide is through mobile phones. Please be sure that you have optimized your website for cellular. Google has a mobile-friendly test site that you can use to test your site and see how it looks. In this day and age, it's hard to believe I need to say this, but you need to own your own domain name. You don't need to be mycoolproduct.wix.com. If you can't afford $25 a year in rent for a website, you're never getting into retail. Let's hope you took my advice and have hired a professional and you aren't on some website builder service. But if you are, make sure you own your domain name. And if you're doing e-commerce in any way on your site, make sure that it's secure. Finally, about domain names, you never want to use anything other than a .com. You might buy the other extensions of your .com. So let's say you own mywidget.com. You might buy mywidget.net and mywidget.org, but your primary website must be a .com. I've seen many an occasion where someone is presenting to me mygreatproduct.com and emailing me from AOL or Yahoo or Gmail. Your email address needs to be the domain name associated with your product. Seriously, not even Gmail. If you are mygreatproduct.com, then that's the domain you need to use to do business. I spent a lot of time in the first video talking to you about your value proposition. This is what should hit me in the face the moment I land on your website. You may have to tailor your value proposition a little in order to work with your website, but the essence of it should remain the same. Remember when I talked about the 3-second rule, where your package better capture the consumer's attention instantly?
It turns out that for websites, it's 15 to 17 seconds, which means that the moment I hit your website, I need to be able to figure out what you do. For a time in my life, I was in the auction business, and during that time, we used an acronym, ITSS, and it stands for It's the Story, Stupid. It calls us to remember that your story and your struggle behind you getting your product to market may be just as important as the product itself. Remember how Steve Jobs built all the first Apple computers in his parents' garage? Great story. And if you have one like that, you need to tell it too. Many people, even with limited resources, can create a great looking website, but remember the importance of original content. Tell your unique story so people can get behind you.
The photos on your site should look professionally done. Bad lighting, fuzzy photos, bad backgrounds, all of that matters. An ex-partner of mine used to say, if you want to be a big company, you need to act like one. Sometimes I go on someone's website and their product photo looks like it was taken by a 5-year-old in a closet in the dark. Some people's kids, right? One tiny thing like this can turn off a reality changer buyer. Please, no shitty photos. Today's website world is a world of video. Or to be more specific, it's a world of short and sweet video. For sure, you need to have a demo video of your product. Again, that's professionally done. If you can't afford a live action video at this point, then at least look to whiteboard explainer videos, which are very inexpensive and can get your point across.
My best suggestion here, and again, this is experience talking and not opinion, is to make yourself a 30-second video that clearly and concisely communicates your value proposition.
Most people are never going to give you more than 30 seconds to pitch them anyway. You need to make it good. Remember that song by Blues Traveler called The Hook? That's what's needed here, a hook video. Imagine that you are making a commercial for the Super Bowl. You have to communicate your entire value proposition in just 30 seconds. This is your hook video. Then, if there's further explaining to do, more videos can be made, but reel in your client first.
Your website should surely have links to whatever social media you are maintaining. But if you are not maintaining your social media pages, don't link to them from your website. Doing so does more harm than good because it tells a retail chain buyer or a reality changer that you don't have the few dollars necessary to keep up with a social media program. And we're going to talk a little more in detail in the next video about social media.
Back when I spoke to you about instruction guides, I reminded you not to hide from your customers, to list clear contact information. Same advice for your website. Make it super easy for anyone to get in contact with you. Make it obvious you're a person standing behind what you're doing and that you aren't going anywhere. If you're concerned about too much phone traffic, then set specific customer service hours or consider maintaining a live chat that you will respond to attentively. Yes, when you are sufficiently large enough, you can pull back on the phone service, but only when you are able to answer email and chat in an expedient manner. For anyone trying to bust into national retail, I don't know how you're getting by without a blog. It is a 100% must-have. For many websites, the blog is at the heart of the content strategy. If you have any hope of being listed organically in the search engines, that is, without paying, then you need to be producing original, written content about your product that the search engines can index. Research has shown that close to 80% of consumers trust online reviews. If possible, be sure that your website includes some very specific client testimonials and even testimonial videos if that's possible. If you've done partner deals with influencers in your industry, their testimonials will carry a tremendous amount of weight as well. We'll talk more shortly about how to obtain awards and how associations might benefit you, but no matter what, these should be appropriately listed on your website.
Lastly, your site should have a call to action. What is it that you want your visitors to do when they arrive at your site? Subscribe to an email list, go and like your social media, go and find a retail store and buy your product, refer their friends. Your call to action should be as clear as your value proposition, and the proper understanding of your value proposition should trigger your call to action.
How many times have you gone to a website only to see outdated information? What do you think when you see that the last blog post was 18 months ago? If you have a product you're trying to get into retail, your website should be continually updated. Imagine a department store buyer or reality changer goes to your website and sees no recent updates of any kind. They will assume immediately that whatever you're offering is old and tired. Humans in general want what is fresh and new. Make sure your website is updated as frequently as you can manage. If you want me to help you place your product at retail and your website loads like it was on a dial-up modem, forget it. It seems like in this day and age, I wouldn't have to say this, but whenever you host your website with Bubba's Web Hosting and pizza delivery for $5 a month, your website loads really slow for consumers. You will never save money irritating your clients. What not to include on your website? No music, no moving text, no flash animations. All of that stuff looks amateur, and no widgets and no Google ads. What are we doing? Are we trying to get a product into national retail, or are we hosting ads? And also, make sure all your links are good. Dead links tells a visitor you aren't maintaining your site. Okay, when you start communicating with anyone related to retail placement, they're going to ask you for a sales sheet about your product. A sales sheet is normally a single-page document that includes all the pertinent information a retail chain buyer needs in order to issue a purchase order for your product. A sales sheet will normally contain several item photos, a features list of the product, and the item data points that are needed for ordering. Here's an example of a pretty standard sales sheet with all the proper components. The normal fields on a sales sheet include SKU number, case pack, inner pack, item weight, item dimensions, case weight, case dimensions, and the UPC code. Sometimes sales sheets include multiple similar items on just one sheet.
Your sell sheets should match your packaging and your website and everything else. Remember that all your collateral material needs to look like it goes together.
You'll want to spend a decent amount of time on the sales sheets for your products. You will get asked for them by everyone along the sales chain.
From manufacturers reps to placement experts to retail chain store buyers to reality changers, everyone is going to need these documents. Make sure your sell sheets represent you accurately.